Hello everyone, welcome to another video. In this video, we will discuss an important concept in Power Pages. You know that in Power Pages, Microsoft has deprecated the local sign-in option or local login option. That's why it is recommended that we have to configure Azure AD B2C authentication. So this is the power page, right? Now here, if you see, click on sign in button, it will navigate to the authentication page. Here you can see registration and sign in option. This is called as local sign in. Also, it is providing Azure ID, so that you can the Active Directory users can use this for authentication. But it's because the local authentication is deprecated, it is very important to configure Azure AD B2C configuration. So go to authentication and identity provider. Here you can verify local sign-in enabled, Azure Active Directory enabled, but Azure Active Directory B2C is not enabled, and you can configure. So click on configure. Select the login provider as Azure Active Directory B2C and give a name of the provider. Here I want to give a name Azure Active Directory B2C Authentication, which will display the name of the button on the screen. So click on next, and here you have to keep the reply URL noted in your notepad. This URL is required for the configuration, so keep this as a note. And then in the next step, we need to configure the site setting. We need authority, client ID, other things. So sign into your Azure portal by using portal.azure.com and create an Azure Active Directory B2C tenant. You need to have that tenant with you so that you can configure it. Okay. So once it is logged in, make sure that you are in the default directory. So click on the settings and you see which directory is current. So default directory is not current, so make the default directory as current so that you can create a B2C tenant. So when you change directory, it will ask for authentication using some auth code. So you can log in, and once it is logged in, you can you can create a Azure AD B2C tenant. So use the secret code and login. Now I have just logged in Microsoft Azure portal using my credential, right? And I am in the default directory. Here I want to create a new resource. While creating new resource, just search Azure AD B2C. When you search Azure AD B2C, it will display some options matching keyword, but click on the Azure service only, which will display the Azure Active Directory B2C. Now click on create. Once you click on create, it will ask you two questions. Do you want to create a new Azure AD B2C tenant or link an existing Azure Active Directory B2C? So click on create a new one because we want to create a new tenant. Give an organization name here. Let's say I want to give an organization name here, that Subchief AJ B2C tenant, or you can give any name of your choice which represents an organization name. So let's say Subchief Azure B2C tenant, and you have to provide a domain name, because whenever you provide a domain name, it should validate if it is already available or not. You see, it is telling that it is already in use, so you have to change this domain name and choose a resource group. It's because you have not changed the configuration domain name, because it is already taken by someone. The creation of the tenant is failed, right? So define a unique domain name which will be created for you. Now click on review and create. Now validation is passed. Click on create, which will take some couple of minutes to create the Azure AD B2C tenant. This Azure AD B2C tenant is used to store the credentials of portal users or Power Page users. Now, once it is created, click on this link to go to the Azure B2C tenant. And here we need to configure an app. So using app registration, you have to create an app, and that app will be used for our integration or authentication setup. Now you can double check here if your current Azure B2C tenant is selected as current directory or not. Now we are in the Azure AD B2C tenant and go to app registration and create new registration. We want to create a new registration, app registration, give a name here. Let's say I want to give a name AJ B2C and login app, right? So this login app A2 Azure B2C login app is the application name, and choose the last option, accounts in any identity provider organizational directory, and in the redirect URL choose web as option and define this reply URL in the text box. So this here you need to use the redirect URL that is copied from the Power Portal or Power Page. Now click on register. Once you click on register, the app will be registered. And at this moment, you have to note the client ID or app ID, application ID, because this application ID is required for the configuration. So go to your notepad and store it. All informations are configurable and you have to keep a note. So once it is done, you can navigate to the authentication and enable two checkboxes. One is access tokens, another is ID tokens. This token should be enabled because whenever the integration will be done, authentication configuration is done, the token will be passed to the reply URL. The next step is you have to navigate to the Azure AD B2C tenant and create a user flow. So go to the tenant and navigate to the user flow and create a user flows in the policy. Okay, now we have already done the app registration, so next step is user flow. So click on the user flow and add a new user flow. This user flow will help you how your user credentials or informations are flowing here. So click on sign up and sign in, because I want to leverage sign up and sign in both. Use recommended option and click on create. Once you click on create, it will ask you to provide a unique string to identify the flow in the request. So let's say I want to use login flow. So note this B2C underscore one underscore login flow. This will be my user flow name for identification purpose. Then in the identity provider, you can choose email sign up because we want email sign up. You can also use other methods like SMS sign up, phone call sign up, right? But for us, I want to use email sign up. Next, you have to define some user attributes. What information you want to capture? Let's say I want to capture for registration purposes. I want to capture email address, display name, and I want to use country also. If I want, I can use country, or you can skip it. So only use minimum information so that it will be better for sign up purposes. Now once it is done, click OK. And you can use surname also if you want to ask surname and first name as a given name. And also you can use whether the information that is captured should be also passed as a return claim. This is the collect attribute, but in the return flow also return option also you can choose in the return claim. Okay, so once the user flow is created, the next information is you have to enable or update a property in the flow. So go to the property, and in the property you have to scroll down and go to the token compatibility setting and select the second option, which display the v2.0 with our flow name, login flow name. So save this after choosing this. Now we have to repeat this process for another user flow if you want to enable password reset option. Okay, so for password reset option you have to enable, and here you have to note some information. If you click on run user flow, you will find a link there in the right side, and click on that link which will open this option. Copy this issuer value, which is again required for authentication setup. So note it, the issuer URL which is required for us. Okay, and Once it is done, you have noted down, you have to repeat this step for other uh, flow. If you want to define some reset, password reset flow, or other flow, you can create new user flow. Let me create a new user flow for password reset. Also you can do for profile editing and other options. So let me use password reset for another flow and repeat the same step. Use recommended version and do the same process to define the name of the user flow to identify. So let me give here password reset B2C underscore one underscore password reset and note the name here. And once it is noted down, you can also select reset password using email address. You have to repeat the step whatever we have done for login and sign up. You have to define the attributes here and click on create, right? So once it is done, you have to again copy the issuer URL for password reset and set the property version 2, which contains our flow name. So this is the flow name and save it and run the user flow to copy the issuer URL. So click on the run user flow and copy the URL. Otherwise you can copy later also. So come to the power pages now, and in the authority, in the second option configure site setting, use the issuer URL of login flow that we have created, login user flow. So authority will contain the issuer URL. Client ID is the application ID that has been copied. You can copy paste the value, and redirect URL is automatically mentioned by the power page. And in the password reset setting, you have to define some default policy ID and password policy ID. You can use the same name here. We have copied the flow name, okay, which defines an ID to identify. And in the valid issuer, you can copy the issuer from the uh, run user flow option from the Azure AD B2C user flow for password reset. Now you can copy the issuer URL as we have done the same thing for sign up and login information. This is for password reset. You can copy and paste here. Now it's done. We can click on create, and once the configuration is done, we have to restart the website or power page website. So click on close, and once it is done, we will navigate. Once it is saved, we can navigate to the admin center to reset or restart the power page website. Okay, so let us navigate to the uh, admin center. Okay, so let us go to the site setting, and in the site setting, if you scroll down, you will find admin center. Click on the open admin center. In the admin center, you will find a site action. And the site action, you have to click the site action and restart the service. You validate that what is the website name. You can restart the site, which will take a couple of seconds to restart the website completely. In the meantime, when it is restarting, your web page or your URL will be not accessible because the service will be stopped for some seconds. It will take at least 30 seconds to 1 minute to restart your web application or power page. If you click on sign in, you will see the service unavailable because it is in a restarting mode. So it will completely uh, restart your application, and it will, once it is restarted, it will load the page, and in the sign in option it will display another authentication button called as Azure AD B2C authentication. And when you click that button, it will directly navigate to the Azure Active Directory portal for sign up process and sign in process, okay, for login information also. So let us wait for some seconds. The service will be restarted. Okay. So restart of the site is mandatory because once you do some authentication changes or configuration, restart is very much required. So you can again click preview to load the fresh Power Page website. It will take some couple of seconds. It will not take maximum minutes. It will take some couple of seconds to restart. So let me refresh again manually and see what happens. Now you see guys, now it is loaded successfully, and click on sign in. If you click on sign in, you will see a new button called as Azure AD B2C Authentication. Okay, now if you click this, it will directly navigate to the Azure portal for authentication purposes. I can also set the sign in option Azure Active Directory B2C authentication as default authentication by using authentication option. So let me go here and click on identity provider and set the Azure Active Directory B2C authentication as default sign in, so that when someone click the sign in button, it will navigate directly to the B2C tenant for credential capture. No, it will not display the local sign-in, or it will not display the Azure Active Directory because we have set that as default. Now let me click the sign in button and see what happens. Now, now this time, as because I have set that option as default Azure B2C authentication, if you click sign in button, it will not open this page which contains the local sign in option. Rather, it will directly navigate to the Azure B2C portal for sign up process. So let us click the sign in menu and see what happens. Now the magic will happen. If you click the sign in, it will directly navigate to the Azure B2C tenant application flow to capture the information. Right? You see, guys. Now this is the sign in option. Here, if you want to create new, click on sign up now. If a portal user wants to register, they can click this sign up option and provide their email ID, and click on send verification code, because every email ID must be verified by the portal user. Now the verification code will be sent to the email ID you have mentioned here, and you can refresh if it is not received immediately. Okay, now this is the count received. This is the OTP. Now I can copy this code here and use in the verification code and verify the code. Now once it is done, you can provide a new password for the user. Okay, when you create a new user, you are trying to register yourself, you have to provide your email ID and password, and the user attributes like display name, given name. Display name, what it will display. Given name means the first name, and surname is the last name. So you can provide information here. Once it is done and click on create, the new user will be created in the system in the contact entity, right? So in the contact entity, our portal users are stored in contact entity, right? That's why it will create a record in the contact entity. You see, guys, here one thing here, it is telling that the email field is required. Why? Because you have entered an email ID in the B2C tenant user flow, which is already exist, right? So here you have to provide an email address which is not already available in contact entity. That's why it is telling that the email ID is already taken. So let me change the email ID by adding one and click on register. Once you click on register, it will create a contact record in the dataverse with all the information that we have captured in the B2C tenant user flow. Now the user is logged in. Okay, and once it is logged in, the user is called as authenticated user. If a user is not logged in, that user is called as anonymous user. Now in the profile page, The user can update his name, first name, last name, and other details, and update the information so that the value will be updated in the contact entity. So this is, so when you use local authentication also, this information are captured and authentication stored in contact entity. But using Azure AD B2C tenant, the credentials are stored in the tenant in Azure portal, which is very safe to manage the users flow using their sign up process, password reset, and uh, login process also. Right now, it is updated. The user is logged in. At any time, the user can sign in, and the user can do password reset also. Okay, so we can test if you sign out and try to sign in also. You can do that. You can test the sign in process also. After you sign in and sign out, you can also do that. You can verify if the record is created in the contact entity or not. If you go to the app and open the Power Page Management or app, or you can navigate to the portal management app from your Power Page using setup option or the three dots. Click on Power Page Management. Here you can navigate to the uh, contact entity to check if the user that is just registered is created in contact entity or not, because contact entity record creation is very important, because the authorization runs under contact entity. So I have changed the contact entity display name as patient. So here I can search all contacts and I can see the user whose name is Rocky Roy is created with all information. Now I can run authorization, right? So Azure AD B2C authentication is required to store the information or handle the user registration and login process using a separate Azure Active Directory B2C server. No need to store the local information or credentials in our Dataverse. Okay, so this is recommended. You can also use sign in process using the same email ID and password that you have given last time, right? So if you click on sign in, it will automatically log in. So that's what all about this video. I hope you can configure for your Power Page. Thank you everyone. See you next time. Bye.